Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear brothers and sisters, friends all around the world and globally. Assalamu alaikum again from me, Brother Naseem Khan. Acha, welcome back to my show, Face the Facts, with Mr Ditta. But before I go on to Mr Ditta, I just want to say we have had phenomenal response in regards to these podcasts that we're doing. And today we're on episode 3. We've had so many emails, and I did put on my status before that if anybody wants to send an email, do send an email on the email that I did provide. We will go over some more details in regards to that as well. So this is episode 3, yeah? Politician or play the game. I think it's about that time. We've got you guys waiting a long time, so I think we better move on to Mr Ditta himself. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu
Mr Ditta.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Very well.
You're looking very well.
Mashallah, thank you.
Mashallah. Before we begin, I just want to say, you are the man with the flamboyant style.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where'd you get that jacket from? That is LV, by the way, guys. It's absolutely Louis Vuitton. You know?
Well, I've got to give a shout out to one of
you do carry the suits off.
Oh, do you?
If it was me, I mean, obviously, I'm a casual kind of a guy. I don't
Well,
carry
you know what,
the
Naseem, you know what? I won't disagree with you there. That's understandable.
Oh, cheers, Paul. Yeah, cheers.
It's understandable.
So let's tell the people: is there any other emails that can get you on?
Well, the emails I understand that you are advertising or on your screen.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
And the emails, there's been a lot of emails. I've responded to most of them.
Yeah.
It's nice to see a lot of young people coming for advice in terms of what subjects should I do?
Yeah.
Where do you think I should study? What area of the law should I go into? And I tried to be as helpful as ever. So I had one young man asking me how and what subjects do you think would be good for law? And he was surprised when I said mathematics. Okay? Now, why do you think I said that?
I'm confused myself. Why would mathematics?
Because subjects such as English are obvious. It's very, very important that if you're going to be an advocate, that you have good spoken English. Good spoken English, to this day, still blows me away. So the other day I was watching YouTube and I came across the Leveson inquiry.
Right.
And there was a barrister on there, a QC. And I understand his surname is J. And he was one of the barristers in that inquiry in relation to phone hacking. And the words that he was using were phenomenal. They were absolutely phenomenal. And what YouTube was doing was explaining the language of this QC, because many, many people would not have heard those words.
Wow.
So what I did was I wrote every single one of those words down so that I know what they mean, and I'm going to use them in my vocabulary. Okay? Point being, you're never too old. If I'm at this age still learning that, but I would say it's worth a look.
That's a good Islamic example as well. You're never too old to gain knowledge.
Yeah.
Knowledge is the key.
And these words blew me away. So for any young person aspiring to be a advocate, English, absolutely. But mathematics, and I'll tell you why. To be a good lawyer, it's all about logical thought. A plus B, find a solution. Clear your mind. It's logical thought. Subjects such as mathematics are logical. Okay? They have definitive answers. So, as a criminal lawyer, criminal advocate, you need a definitive answer to present to the judge. So, this argument, with this sentencing guideline, I'm asking for this. You understand? The thought process. So if you have already established that thought process in your mind and the way that you think, then that is the way that you can start to train your mind. Okay? And it manifests in life. It manifests in your life, in your personal life. So for example, when you speak or people have conversation with me, it's very direct.
Yeah.
Because you'll know that it's not, well, all around. It's because
Straight
that's
up,
the
yeah.
that's the way that your mind works.
Yeah.
When you've been working it that way for many years, so it's all logical thought. Okay.
So with regards to this title, politician,
Yeah.
or play the game, I mean, looking at this, we know where it's going.
Yeah.
So
Well, you tell me. You've been listening to the podcast, Naseem, yeah, and you have been listening to the experiences.
Mr. Ditta, I'm here to interview you. So
Yeah. Well,
but if you're posing the question,
I pose the question because, say, for example, different people will have different answers.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
you ask me, yeah.
if you were in that situation, would you play the game?
Yeah.
Would you play the game, i.e., be a politician?
Yeah.
Or would you not play the game?
Me personally, I would not play the game.
You wouldn't play the game?
No.
So you would...
I'm talking, everybody has their own experience. My experience would be through friends' life or work life, you know. So me personally, I would not play the game.
Okay.
Because then it puts you, I would say, in control of the other person.
So you wouldn't play the game. You would just basically stand by your belief and your principles.
Yeah.
And whatever the repercussions, that's what you would
Which
do.
I've always done.
Which is what you've always done.
Yeah.
That's very commendable. Okay. And that's what I want to touch upon today, to see what the general view is. However, I'm going to throw something else into the mix.
Yeah.
Okay. And that something else into the mix is that not everything now I have learned. Yeah.
Yeah.
Muhammad Ali, he said some really, really thought-provoking things.
Yeah.
But he said in one of his comments that at the age of 30, if I was still thinking as a 13-year-old, then I've wasted my life. Because...
That's deep.
No, it's because through experience, you learn how to develop your life skills. Do you understand?
Absolutely.
So, if somebody was to ask me the question that I asked you, right? I would say, well, there is another option. Yeah? Which is not as black and white. Play the game or don't play the game. Well, you meant to ask me, what is that, Mr. Ditta?
I was getting to that.
Well,
What is that, Mr. Ditta?
I thought I'm having to do your job as well as mine today. Well, that job is, and this might
How
be quite...
to play the game.
No, it's let them think
you're playing the game.
You are playing the game. Right? Now then, that might be being a politician, but it's not as abrasive as playing the game. So let them think you are playing the game. Okay? The reason I say that is, and the reason that people, in my opinion, and very respectful, need to have knowledge of wider society in terms of how it plays out, is that when I was very young and I went into the profession, I got played.
Yeah.
Absolutely no doubt I got played. Okay? But I didn't realize I was getting played. I realized 25 years later that I got played. So let me give you an example. And these are people who are far more cleverer than you are. And if I had the knowledge that in my brain now that I did when I was 23, 24 coming into the profession, I would have dealt with things differently. But I didn't have that knowledge. What I wish I had was somebody that was there to put that knowledge in me.
So to guide you.
Correct. Okay? Now a lot of young people, a lot of young lawyers, they come to me and say, look, how do I tell them with my own experience and experiences, okay, for them to avoid the issues I had. I'm quite happy to assist anybody. But I'll give you an example. I had a very good friend who I was with at law school, an English guy, and we were very close. And we started working together. And we were very good together because we were a good team. I began to capture the Asian market. He had the English market, and we were young, we were hungry, and we were making a lot of noise. And we're doing really well. Everybody's happy. This particular person then decides to leave and go somewhere else. So he tells me, tomorrow I'm leaving. I'm handing in my notice. I've had a better job offer. I'm getting better money. Fine. The next day, he hands in his notice. Immediately, and this is it, when it hit me, immediately after handing in his notice, after about an hour, the phone's calls to his office are stopped.
So his line's off.
Because they don't want anybody taking the clientele. Ruthless, but this business, okay? At 5 o'clock, he's told to go home. You don't need to work your leave. At 5:30, I get called into the office by the main people. And they said to me, get your coat. I said, why? Get your coat. We're going for a walk. So I thought, I think I might be in trouble. Because
as you do, yeah.
Because I knew he was leaving.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I helped him write his resignation letter.
So that was playing on your head as well.
So that was playing on my head as well, yeah. Right. But, so I'm thinking, what they're going to be thinking, why did I not tell them?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I got my coat. And we walked up to the other office.
Right.
When we got to the other office, the main office, a number of other main people then arrived. And so I'm sat in a room, and they purposefully made me wait for 30 minutes to show them.
Yeah.
To show me that, listen, we are in control.
Yeah.
I get called in, and they asked me, did you know he was leaving? I said, yeah. So, did you help write his resignation letter? Because that's what he said. I said, to be honest, yeah. The next question, are you leaving? No, we don't want you to leave. I'll tell you what, we're going to get you a new car.
Wow.
I said, all right, okay. And we think you deserve more money. So I'm thinking, where's this going? I came in thinking I've lost my job. Now it's going the other way. I said, okay, we think you deserve a holiday. Do you want to use a company villa? I said, okay. And then they said, you need to do something for us. I said, okay. What is that? Well, this person who's left is going to take a lot of our clients, but you're better than him, Mr Ditta. You're a better lawyer, aren't you? Yes, I am. He's not your friend, is he? No, he's not. You're going to fight him off, aren't you? Yes, I am. And you know what I did for the next 5 years? Fight him off.
Wow.
My own friend. And he turned around to me one day when I basically fought him off. I told him to get back to where he came from and not to take the clients that I was fighting with. He said to me, I'm not your enemy. You're a fool. You're being played. Now then, you tell me, is that not clever?
Absolutely.
Is that not clever?
Absolutely.
I was the fool, but I didn't think, I had no knowledge at that time. And I'm thinking, I am being asked to do something because of whatever reason, and I will do it. But the bigger picture was, it was all self-preservation. You see the point?
Absolutely.
Self-preservation. So, when you say play the game, people are playing the game. People very, very clever are playing the game. And now hopefully, it has to be the situation that people are wiser.
So what do you say at that point, Mr. Ditta, that obviously I've heard this, the people out there have heard this, is very deep coming from you, appreciate it, it's obviously part of your life, you know what I mean? would you say that you were in a bubble at that time? Because
Correct.
obviously you were
Totally.
doing your thing. You know, you were living it.
You know what is? You hit the nail on the head. I didn't know about life outside the bubble I was living. It's like being honestly, it's like being a footballer. Everything is taken care of. Your car, I didn't even know how to open a car bonnet. Yeah?
Yeah.
Your cars, everything is taken care of as long as you bring in the work. Okay? So, I'll tell you another explanation or another example.
I think you should, because guys, we don't know if we're gonna have Mr Ditta on with us again. Obviously, we've got Ramzan coming, and we're just gonna go as it is. We're gonna go in twofold and straight in, boom.
So, for example, when you say being played, right? So, for example, in the mornings you used to get the files for court, and I'd pick up my files for court, and my files for court would always be files involving allegations of corruption against the police or the police planting drugs. You understand this? So I'd pick up these files, and I remember one time thinking, why is it always me who's got the files that involve antagonism with the police? And somebody whispered in my ear, it's because you're good at it. And I went, oh, fantastic. So I used to deal with those kind of cases.
Because you were good at it.
Because I was good at it. But who said I was good at it? Who made me do it? Who kept away from it? So whenever my brushes with the law came, in terms of fighting with the police, whose name was it? Mr. Ditta. Other people,
Mr Ditta.
other people were not at the forefront.
No, they weren't. You were.
So I was. So these people are putting these cases to me to deal with. I'm being played because I'm thinking, what a privilege to be given these cases.
Yeah.
Because other people didn't have, what's the word? Didn't have the courage.
I was going to say guts.
I was going to say something else, but I forgot we were on there. But they didn't have the courage. Now, those people then are out of the limelight.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. So whenever you get the,
you're in the firing line.
So you're in the firing line. So whenever people used to come, so I remember one time there was a young guy who was in Blackburn Town Centre, and the police arrested him. But when the police arrested him, they arrested him in quite a strong, vociferous manner. And members of the public rang in and called the police on the police and said, look, this guy is being assaulted. It was on CCTV. So when I went to court dealing with this case, I really hammered them. Didn't hold back. And it made headlines. It made national headlines. And the headlines were, solicitor lambasts the police for the arrest and unlawful force. Now then, there was a great kickback by the police in that. But my team or my colleagues who should have said, look, you know what, that was deserved. You know, the reaction was, and the reaction often was, it's Mr. Ditta. He's a law to himself. So rather than say,
well done, no,
rather than say he's part of our team,
yeah,
should
be proud in representing you and standing up for you. Yeah.
He's a law to himself. Or don't worry about him. Now then. So.
Did that not make you think a little then?
I dismissed it.
Yeah, I was just going to say you brushed
it. I dismissed it because you think that when it comes down to it, that people will be in your corner. Nowadays, I realise nobody's in your corner. I was in everybody's corner.
Yeah, you were.
I was in corners I didn't even need to be in.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was in corners I didn't even need to be in.
Yeah.
But then you look to see who is in your corner now. So, what is my point? Well, the point is this, that in terms of playing the game, you got to be wise. Be
Yeah.
wise. And where do you get your wisdom from? You get your wisdom from speaking to people who've been in the game. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In that circle.
People who've got experience, people who've been in the game, people who've been in that occupation. Speak to them. Learn from them. It's all about that knowledge.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when somebody comes to you and says, "Oh, this is happening to me," often people say, "Well, hold on, 20 years ago, that was what they were trying to do to me, or this is what's happening to me." So there should not be any hesitation in seeking that support.
There was an incident, wasn't there? SPF.
Yeah, that was the incident in relation to my friend. Yeah.
So what we'll do, guys, we're going to take a quick break. It's getting very intense, and we'll come right back in exactly 2 minutes. Assalamu alaikum, guys, welcome back. I've brought you back on the same camera with me and Mr Ditta. Getting very intense there, Mr Ditta.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right, okay.
I just want to thank
Are you
for-
okay?
Yeah, absolutely, I'm okay.
You don't need any water or
No,
anything
I'm
like
fine.
that, are you
Do
sure?
you need any water? So what would be your advice to young lawyers in regards to playing the game?
Be strong, be courageous, have no fear. You can't represent people and have fear in terms of what's going to happen to you. But what you can have is an understanding and a respect of what could happen. I will be the first to admit that I didn't have that respect of what could happen. Okay? Because having that respect of what could happen then manifests itself in relation to how you deal with certain situations. Do you understand?
Absolutely.
So, for example, my advice would be that you need to be tuned into your environment and tuned into how matters could develop in relation to your working life. And what do I mean by that? I mean this, that in your work as, and we're talking primarily as lawyers, yes?
Yeah.
In your work as lawyer, and you've got to be relentless, fearless, and strong, okay? But you don't need to be abrasive. I was on occasion, okay? Where you would be unnecessarily confrontational. I would admit I was, which would then cause friction.
So you don't want to attract too much attention unnecessarily.
Yeah. That's not one of my strongest attributes. I used to attract attention.
Absolutely.
But do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Rather than being abrasive, confrontational, and this is what I was touching about in terms of a third option, right? Which is to have all those characteristics that you need to be, but don't put it out there in such an abrasive manner, which is my style.
Yeah.
Okay, which then causes friction.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you could quite properly conduct yourself in that way, and have the ability to defend an individual to the best. But Naseem, don't get me wrong, there's going to be confrontation somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
And the question then is how do you deal with it? Yeah, how do you deal with it? Do you let things go? Do you not let things go? These are judgment calls that people have to make. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're in the police station, if certain things happen, do you let them go? Or do you deal with it?
There's been some cases, I mean, from your time as well, where there's been an incident where one individual, you know, was being interviewed by solicitors, and they all told him to do the same thing. Have you ever intervened in a situation where there's been a couple of solicitors and you thought, hold on a second, why have you not done X, Y, and Z?
Many times. I've intervened in situations where there's nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
So, for example, when there's wrong, I will intervene.
Yeah.
I get told off for it, but I will intervene. So, for example, I was sat in court once, and there was a gentleman who was not represented, and I'm sat there minding my own business, but I'm hearing what's going on, and he's getting a rough ride, but wrong legally. What they were doing to him was wrong legally. Yeah.
Right.
So I looked up and I looked at the clerk, and I stood up. I said,
Imagine the movie scene.
I said, this is wrong. I said, this is your client. I said, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be, because what you're doing is wrong. Yeah? What sentence, what you're seeking to impose is wrong in law. And how can you be comfortable in trying to do that just because he hasn't got a lawyer? So the judge said, well, you're not his lawyer. And I turned around and I said to him, do you want me as a lawyer? He said, yeah. So I turned to the judge and said, yeah, he's my client now. Can I have to? So there is situations when you have to intervene. Yeah. In the police station.
Have you had any cases like that where in the police station you've got a person who's been, could be done for anything, and do you think they've ever suffered? Have you seen anybody suffering any injuries by the police, or in a situation where the lawyer, he's spoke to the lawyers about it, the lawyers have said to him,
well, you know what? It's
because we do see it happen.
Listen, I once dealt with a case where a police officer arrested some Asian youths in a car, and they recorded him on a dictaphone. I think mobile phones were just about coming out.
Yeah, just about. Yeah, the big
shows my age. But for some reason they had a dictaphone or something.
Probably cassette. Them small mini cassettes used to get.
And they recorded this racist abuse from this police officer. Okay, calling them
X, Y, and Z.
X, Y, and Z.
Name
but
son. Yeah.
Anyway, they gave the tape to me. I pulled it out in court during the trial and played it. All hell broke loose. Okay, because they said you never showed us this before, or you didn't have this before, or this, etc. We sent it off for forensic examination, and it came back that it was a proper, untampered recording. But the only way we could get somewhere with it was to have the police officers recording on a tape to match, which they wouldn't provide. Okay, so when I've handed this evidence to the people I need to hand it and say, investigate this, it's not going anywhere. Understand?
I understand, yeah.
Okay, so it's all about how far you're prepared to go. There was an incident where
the extra mile, like we discussed.
Yeah,
so you would go that extra mile.
Well, there was an incident where some guys came into my office, and they said to me, we've got a recording here. Okay, we've got a recording here of people who have been fighting outside our house, smashed our windows,
right,
and there's been a remonstration.
Right.
Okay, and we have provided this to you as a copy, and we've also provided this to the police. Okay? When we get to court, it turns out that it's been suggested that that recording has not been provided and is not available. So who had the only copy of it? Me.
Mr Ditta.
So who turned up to my office with a warrant for that recording?
Right.
Members of the police.
Yeah.
I wouldn't give it to them.
Right.
Okay. Because they had no right in terms of taking material that had been handed to me.
Yeah.
So I've just been thinking whilst I've been talking about, when you mentioned the extra mile, this is, can I tell you about one incident? This is a crazy one. This is a crazy one. One time I was coming home. This is when I was younger. I'm not going to tell you where I'd been, but I was coming home and I realised I left my wallet in my drawer in the office, and I was in a taxi. Taxi driver became my friend. I said to him, don't worry, I'll drop the money off to your office tomorrow. So did that, never heard from him. 6 months later, I get a phone call, and it's this guy, and you know what he says? He says, I need you. Right? I said, where are you? He goes, I've stabbed her. I said, really? Where are you? Because I'm in Bolton. I'm at the casino, sounded drunk.
Right.
So honestly, I went, yeah. I put the phone down. I thought, is that somebody playing a prank? Then I've rang the police, and I've said, are you looking for somebody for attempt murder? I said, no. I said, okay. Do you know what happened? My office then got flooded with police officers. They said, well, where did you get this phone call? Where is he? I said, look, I don't know. I wasn't going to tell them where he was. He's my client. Yeah. So I then rang him back, and I went to speak to somebody in charge, and they said, go and pick him up. I said, well, he's just committed an attempted murder, apparently. Well, it doesn't matter. Take somebody with you, it's a big case. Yeah. So I went round the office. I said, who wants to come with me to pick this guy up? All of a sudden, everybody was so busy.
Yeah.
But there was this one poor guy, trainee solicitor. I said, come on, you're coming with me. So we took him, and I drove to Burnley. Sorry, Bolton. Drove to Bolton. I'd meet this guy. He sat outside the casino. He's drunk. He's still got the knife. He's covered in blood. And I said to him, hello. Hello. Let's get you in the car. So I actually got him in the car. Brought him back to Blackburn. Took him into the office. Had a coffee. Called the police and took him into the police station.
This is like movie stuff.
Seriously. He got 12 years. Yeah. 12 years for that particular incident. So there have been some interesting cases.
Yeah.
There have been some interesting cases. Yeah.
We've called this series Buckingham Palace to B-Wing.
Yeah.
Why would we say B-Wing?
Well, for those who know my life, that's going to be the next chapter.
Yeah.
Okay. Because part of doing these podcasts is not for me to self-promote. It's for, and I'll be honest with you here, it's for guidance and what I can offer.
Yeah.
In terms
Absolutely.
of individuals and how they can avoid the issues that I experience.
Now, over the previous podcasts that we've done, I'm sure people have got a different perspective in regards to the knowledge that you're giving. But now, I think it's really good what he's just said there for the next chapter. So that does mean we will be having you back for the next chapter.
Well, I don't know, but you see, do you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So, if, for example, I had somebody like me when I was developing,
Yeah.
you know, then I would have so appreciated it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is why if anybody comes to me and says to me, I get many young people, but anybody comes to me and says to me, look, this is the situation, what's going on, what's your view? I'll give you a very honest, straight opinion.
Yeah.
All right. You know what? Like you said, these podcasts and stuff going over. I've had people. One of my friend, and I just mentioned him. Is a absolutely phenomenal lawyer in London. He's called Joseph Hill.
Mm.
Yeah, have you heard of him?
No, I've not
He's
heard.
based in Tottenham. Joseph Hill. Highly recommend him, Joe. And he's been telling me of people mentioning this to him
And look at that, it's all
down in
awareness.
Tottenham. So thank you, Joe. Yeah, so we will touch upon that if I return.
If you return, yeah, which
Just,
I'm hoping to make you
Well,
return.
it just depends
We're
on
not going anywhere yet. I want to ask you something else as well, yeah? In regards to the lawyers these days, yeah?
Okay.
I mean, there was something I had here. I had a question posed as well by a few people in regards to the lawyers these days. Many lawyers tend to, I'd say, kind of, fight against each other. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but they all want to tread on each other's toes, which you normally get in other circumstances. But
I think that
what
let
do
me
you think?
let me give you my view. Play the game. Back in my day, it was very cutthroat. But who told you to go and fight the guy from the next firm? Even though he was your friend, it was the people who were making the money from you. Yeah. So this was instilled. Why did I go around fighting everybody? It was because I was told to do that.
Yeah.
Don't let them take your case. This is our case. Don't let them. This is your client. Fight for your client.
Yeah.
So that was instilled in me. I became a little bit of a Rottweiler.
Yeah.
I don't look like one, but
No.
became a little bit of a Rottweiler. Now then, so that was the reason for the situation in my time. But as I developed and as I matured, it was my belief that the way you deal with another professional, you can professionally say to someone, you're not taking that case, but you don't need to undermine them, okay, or belittle them. So sometimes people used to say to me and go, oh, you know what, my solicitor's better than you. And I would say, okay, come into court and obviously make your decision. Yeah? People are not fools. Yeah, people are not fools. Let's see. So it doesn't matter. You could be my best friend as a lawyer, but if you're stood there in the dock and your liberty is at stake, it doesn't matter about friendship. You want to get out.
Yeah.
So you're going to get the best guy.
Yeah.
Right. So what I would say is, look, I'm not interested in any competition, but if you want to see what I'm about, come into court and you'll see what I'm about. If you want to see what your lawyer's about, I'm sure you'll see him in court.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? If now it's developed in a situation where to get clients, it's all about business, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So to get clients, you have to belittle, undermine other lawyers, then I'm against it. Okay, I will not criticize other lawyers. I will not belittle them. Everybody's talented
In their own way.
in their own way, and as to the abilities that they got there.
Yeah.
If you get a case, you get a case. The other lawyer will get a case the next time.
Don't you think it's changed a bit as well, where back in the day you had a lot of money to play with there?
Totally.
Whereas now, obviously,
It's
legal
you know
aid and
what?
degrees and
It's just totally opened my eyes, being away from it for a couple of years and then coming back. It just massively changed, not in a good way. Okay? And I've touched on it before. These fixed fees that lawyers get paid. People think, oh, lawyers, look at their car. He's driving this. I bet you don't see many criminal lawyers driving Bugattis and all this kind of thing. No way. Fixed fees mean, so for example, a rape case, standard rape case. You know how many people think you're getting 50 grand? You know how much you're getting? 3 grand. top. So people then get on the thing that, right, well, I need to ring my lawyer every day, and I get lawyers now who I speak to, and
Frustrated?
honestly, well, their business model is, and they've had to go this way, and I'm not criticizing, but they've had to go this way, and they say, I've got nothing to say to you, I'll ring you. Don't ring me 10 times a week, because I've got nothing to say to you, and I'm not getting paid to speak to you 10 times a week. You understand the same? So you're basically getting a service in terms of the money that they're given.
Yeah.
And they will say to you, if you want a Rolls Royce service, pay for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So this is really, really terrible, because you get people who are genuinely concerned about somebody charged with a criminal case, but their lawyer is not getting decent money to deal with it.
Which is fair in his sense, isn't it? Why should he do the extra mile? You know?
So they're thinking, why, you know?
And they're thinking, oh, he's this and he's that, but he's not really.
But so this is when people are criticizing their lawyers. Step back a little bit
And look at the bigger picture.
and look at the bigger picture and say, look, this guy, for what he's getting paid, is dealing with me in a proper professional way. Okay, it's like going into a shop, right, and you've got £20 in your pocket and saying, can I have a Gucci jacket, and them saying to you, I'm sorry, but you can only buy one of these.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Cheers, man. Yeah.
A champion jacket.
Yeah, if Champion's watching this, you know what I mean? He's
do you understand the point?
Yeah.
So it's like that.
Yeah.
So it's just the same now. This is why more and more companies like the ones that I'm involved with,
assist law and
criminal appeal specialists. This is why they're getting more and more popular, because we provide an intermediate service.
So what you give another insight on the case, basically.
So say, for example,
they pay for.
Let's continue with the rape example.
Yeah.
If you went to see your solicitor on a rape case, first of all, he's got to have the ability and the knowledge. Okay. Say he's got the ability and the knowledge, and he says to you, right, okay, you don't want legal aid. No, I don't want legal aid. Well, to fight this case for you, it's going to cost you 25 grand, because you've got to remember, not only do you have to pay for the solicitor, you got to pay for the barrister. Okay. So you might say, okay, my costs are, say, 8 grand. Barrister's costs are 8 grand. 16, put VAT on top of that, 20 grand. Okay. A lot of money. Yeah. So who, you know, people can't afford that. The run-of-the-mill people can't afford that. By run-of-the-mill, I'm not being disrespectful. I mean the ordinary working people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is where companies like mine come in. Because what I say is, right, okay, your brother, and you come to me and say, my brother's charged you rape. I will look at the papers for you. I will analyse them. I will find issues with them. I will consider all the forensic issues in the rape case. I will consider all the other aspects that lawyers can't do or won't have time to on the legal aid. But you pay me as the brother privately, and my costs are not 20 grand. Far, far, far less. You understand?
Yeah.
So that everybody benefits. The lawyer benefits because I provide all what I've done.
You've taken a bit of burden off him as well.
I do everything I've done, and I say, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay. You benefit because you think, wow, everything is being properly looked at. So using that example, the other day, in a rape case, I spent 1 day looking at DNA evidence, transfer of DNA evidence, cross-contamination of DNA evidence, different types of DNA evidence, DNA 17, all this, etc., etc., different forensic bodies, different forensic institutions to deal with it, different experts. Now, you know how long that took me? It took me from when I sat down on my desk, 7 o'clock in the morning to about 6:30 at night. No other lawyer has the time to do that.
No, they don't.
And they're not getting paid to do that. But at the end of that exercise, I was able to say to the family, these are the forensic issues that I think are relevant in your case. I've done my research, and this is the best expert in the whole of the United Kingdom to deal with it. Now, without that, how do we know what would have happened? But with that,
We do. You got a chance.
we've got. So this is where
Your knowledge came into account.
this is where the lacuna. I call it the lacuna now. This is where that lacuna within the criminal justice system is being filled more and more and more by companies like the ones I've created.
When I first came to see, before I go on to when I first came to see you,
Right.
I want to tell the audience out there basically how they can get in touch. We have given the emails, but if you give them again, also they can go on your website and have a little form fill and stuff, can't they?
Listen, I encourage anybody to make some inquiries. No issue with that. Lawyers who've got novel cases, they should. I think the lawyers should work together. Never mind fighting each other, like you said. Work together, bounce ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, even after all these years in this profession, I bounce ideas off other people, and sometimes people come back and give me such a good idea. Work together.
Yeah.
Yeah, you leave your what's that word? Machoism, is it? Machoism. Yeah. Save that for pure gym.
So if you want to get in touch, get onto Assist Law. What's the website?
So it's Assist Law.
Yeah.
Is it? It's on your flyer, isn't it?
Yeah, I've got it on my flyer. I've got it underneath assist-law.co.uk.
Yeah.
And you can email as well, assistlawlimited@outlook.com. And visit the website, complete a free no obligation request at the same time as well, if they want to get any information. I want to hear a funny story.
You want to hear a funny story?
But before I go to the funny story, I want to tell the people how we actually re-met. I had to go to your house. Little T had to go to Big B's house, yeah, and I saw a nice, lovely dog there called Bella.
Oh, Bella. You didn't say that at the time. I think you ran.
No, I
you,
did.
You
I
ran
kinda,
halfway down the street.
Yeah, I kind of stood near the gate and I go, I ain't coming in. But now she's very friendly. I'm used to her.
Bella,
lovely.
Bella's our guard dog.
Putting experiences into account, I think you've learned quite a bit from animals. What do you think? I know I have from animals, how they are.
As far as Bella's concerned, I've had her since she was a puppy. My daughter actually brought her home, right? Since she was a puppy.
Yeah.
And they are the most loyal pet or animal that you can have. Okay. I became incredibly into fitness.
Yeah.
And go running twice a day with her,
which many can see.
And
wherever your family is.
And as far as that is concerned, there's always one good thing about an animal like that.
Yeah.
And you know what that is, Nassim? What I've learned?
Yeah.
The animal such as a dog will only come to you and show you one face.
Ooh.
It only has one face.
Absolutely.
Can you say that about a human?
Not really.
With a human, you have to look at the face that they bring to you at the table. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely.
When I got Bella, I was in a situation where I didn't really want interaction. But I know when I've got Bella, she only comes with one face. Yeah? Do you understand?
Absolutely.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Okay. But yeah, I'd highly recommend it.
Absolutely. Now, going back to your funny stories, I know there was one story you were telling me on the police table when you went to a police event or something like that.
Police table? Oh.
I'm sorry, I had to bring that in.
Wow. So we're gonna end on a lighter note, are we?
Yeah, on a lighter note.
Inshallah, I hope one day I will return on your podcast. I wish you all the best with it.
Thank you.
I think you're doing a wonderful job for the community. I think your interviewing techniques could do a little bit of a little bit of more
I know your level, man.
maturing, huh?
I know your level, man.
You know my level. So,
But if you notice, a lot of people have said that to me, and I've always said I've took a backseat on this. Only on this one,
all
I
right.
kind of spoke more. Reason being because
Listen.
I thought, you know,
I was just pulling your leg.
no, I wanted you to.
I didn't want you to like.
I wanted Mr. Ditta to tell what it is.
Or so a funny story. You want to end up on some funny stories or some lighter stories.
Yeah, let's take two to start with.
Okay.
Let's go to the party first. Yeah.
So we went to a dinner once, which is the is it the Prince's Trust dinner?
Yeah.
Which was held by Lancashire Constabulary, and I was on a table, and I think it was the only Asian table at this dinner.
Right.
I was sat with a number of interpreters and a number of colleagues, a number of the interpreters. At that time, I didn't have a beard, but they were all wearing the traditional jubba and a beard. And this is the truth. This is what happened. So there was a raffle, and they said fourth prize. We'll start with fourth. Fourth prize, somebody else. Third prize was a box of chocolates, big bundle box of chocolate.
Yeah.
Winner, Mr. Ditta's table, right? Asian guy with a beard. Okay. Second prize was dinner for two at Northcote Manor. Have you been there?
No.
Quite a posh hotel. Northcote Manor, dinner for two at Northcote Manor. Winner, Mr. Ditta. I took my wife. Yeah. God's honest truth. Took my wife. So I went out. By this time, we're getting some funny looks. Why is it that they're getting most of the prizes?
Yeah.
But then the last one was, and then they said the main prize is a year's supply of Foster's beer. And the winner is Mr. Such and Such Patel from on our table. So this guy called Mr. Patel, and you can imagine what he was wearing, had to go up and get this token for this year's supply of Foster's beer. And to this day, I don't know what he did with it. So that was quite funny. The Lancashire police, they thought it was all rigged.
Yeah, rigged, yeah.
But if we were going to rig it, we wouldn't rig it for a year's supply of beer.
In closing, before we give the message to the youth, have you had any cases where pregnant women have been involved?
Pregnant women? Or you mean any incident?
Yeah, incidents.
Well, you mentioned funny stories, and you know what? Sometimes you just gotta laugh.
Yeah.
So I remember
he has reminisced a lot since he's met me, though.
Has it? So I remember one time in court when just for a favour, we used to represent people who fell behind with their fines.
Right.
Yeah. And so there'd be a full line of them. There'd be about 30. So you'd be stood there in court, and somebody outside would be writing everything down, and then they'd hand you the piece of paper, and then you say, "Come on, let's get in here, and then we can have it." So I remember I'm there, and I'm getting all these papers, and I accidentally get the papers mixed up. So I said to this woman, I said, "Come on, get up here."
Yeah.
And so she gets up here, and I said to her, "Right," I say, "Your worships, terrible story. This woman's had some very devastating news recently. She's been diagnosed with cancer," and she's going, "Mr. Ditta, Mr. Ditta." I said, "Oh, sorry, don't worry, it's fine." And husband's lost their job, and one of the children's going, "Mr. Ditta, Mr. Ditta." I said, "Mrs. Walker, calm down, it's fine. And it's really tried. She fell behind her benefits." And she goes, I said, "Mrs. Walker, it's okay." She goes, "But you know what? I'm not Mrs. Walker." She goes,
"What went through your mind at that time?"
She goes, "I'm not Mrs. Walker." I said, "Who's Mrs. Walker?" And someone said, "There." She goes, "I'm Mrs. Walker." I said, "Well, you come here then." You go back there. You gotta laugh, and you
gotta laugh.
Last one.
Yeah.
Last one was I representing this young woman upstairs. When I say young, about 30 upstairs. Yeah. In court, and she's being prosecuted for drink driving. So she's fined And then the clerk writes down the fine and goes to me, do you mind taking this to the fines office? And so she can pay the fine. And at the back of the court, there's two people. There's a guy about in his early 60s and another guy and a young guy who's about 19.
Right.
This one's about 31. So take the fine thing, and I go downstairs and I go to the fines office and I say to the woman, hello, this is such and such a person. I've just represented her in court for, and she's been fined £400, and her dad's going to pay the fine. And he comes forward, he goes, you cheeky bastard, he goes, I'm her husband. And he wanted to fight me in court.
I do apologise.
You just always ask. Don't presume. Just always ask, okay?
I just want to say thanks, Max. Thank you very much.
Well, listen, I wish you all the best with your podcast, and you're doing a good job.
Thank you very much. Thank you for taking your time out. You never know, guys. We might have him back on here again. You never know. Fingers crossed. And there you go, guys. That was Mr Ditta, many know as Bash, inshallah, on the third episode, which was